I don't really like to talk about the work that much. I like to talk, speak for itself, which probably confuses people. But the thing actually I wanted to talk about first, because this showing here at this gallery has been this kind of a great full circle for me, because it was here at Valencia College a long time ago, more than 10 years ago. But I was a student coming out of Winter Park High School and with a lot of friends that are here. And was confused, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I started in business because I didn't know that you could have a life being a creative person, using creative ideas to do things. And I met this lady, Keith Throm, who was my teacher, and it's so amazing that she's here tonight. And she told me that there's this thing called graphic design, and this thing's called art, and you can make a living and actually create a life doing this. And so that's what I've been doing since then, since the late 70s, with creativity in the design world, the advertising world. I now have an agency here. My partner, John Ludwig's here, who's an amazing partner, a great guy to have. And, I guess it was probably second or third year that this campus was even open. They actually had an outdoor art show out in, I think it was in that little circle. Tim Fisher, who's here, and Tim's dad helped us build these display panels, and we put some work out. And actually, I have a picture, I couldn't find it, but Tim standing next to it with really short shorts and no shirt on. And,
glad you didn't find it.
I wanted to blow it up a little bit. But that was the first place I ever, I wanted an award that day for some pencil drawing I did. And they bought it from me for $75, which was an amazing amount of money to me at that time. And that was the first award I ever won for anything using. So having the show here is great, because this is where really my life got started as a grown-up. And so it feels like a really good full circle. My son just walked in. Nice to see you. Not him. The young handsome one. Not the older handsome one. So yeah, I mean, to talk about the work a little bit, it's taken me 30 years probably to get to complete abstraction. I've talked about this in the past with people where I was always an expressionistic painter, and I did a lot of work on paper for years, but I always felt like I needed to have some sort of image in the work. But I always felt it slowed me down, and it took a while to get to things, because I always felt like you always had to have an idea before you started painting. And I finally I dabbled in it for about 10 years, and finally about 5 years ago broke through where I really felt like I was getting a handle on this complete abstraction. And it's been very freeing to me, because now I almost feel like these are all one painting, because I just keep going. I mean, I think that's what most abstract painters do. You just keep going, you keep moving ahead. But I also feel like it's growing and getting better all the time. 2.5 years ago, I moved into the studio with Jackie and Nancy and Cheryl and Michael and Rima, and that's been just a great thing for me. Jackie's been a great mentor to me as a painter. She's a real deal. Nancy's the real deal. I love being around them. I love being around real painters that love painting and love all the painters I love, like Cy Twombly and Dave Kooning and Joan Mitchell. Those are people that have influenced me a lot. But another thing that Jackie wrote this great curator statement, and one of the things she brought up that I hadn't thought about, but I just love is that there's also the influence of kind of the street artists and the graffiti artists, which I really like. And I started thinking about more, and I think a lot of these things, in 1981 or 2, right when I got out of college, I moved to New York for a couple of years. And back then Manhattan wasn't like a big shopping mall that it is now. It was kind of a dirty, grungy, hardcore place. And I used to live in the East Village. I wandered to Soho, and that's when the galleries were there. Always there was galleries, manufacturing, artist lofts. And all the subway trains back then were just covered in graffiti. And I think back then it almost kind of looked like that. It was just full of just this, I love this kind of all over sort of energetic feel to things in it. And so I thought that was just kind of a really neat thing to bring up in that. As I paint my project, I can talk about the process a little bit. These things, I'll talk about this one because this one's a very recent one. I finished it last fall. And this is actually on wood. It's on 2 big boxes, 4 feet by 8 foot put together. And this one really went through a lot of stages. And it, I really just kind of start with laying color down, and from there it just sort of grows, because it looks spontaneous, but I actually sit and look at paintings a lot. So I'll paint some, and I sit for a while, and I think, and I decide what color is going to go next, what area I'm going to work on next. And this went through a lot. It started out really kind of full like this, and then I decided I'm going to try, since it's so big, and Jackie probably remember, I went got these big brushes, and I tried some really big brush strokes, which I think some of them are still under here. I thought it could make it really big and slashy. I got it back, and I thought it didn't feel like one of my paintings, didn't feel right. So you just got to keep going. That's the thing with these, is it's with abstract work, it's actually easy to get to a point where it looks pretty and you want to stop, but somehow you have to kind of keep pushing to get to where it actually really feels like it has a history and a life to it, and some depth to it, and some emotion to it. I think the color you work with actually comes a lot out of purely emotion and how you're feeling. Most of these things are kind of bright, happy paintings, which most of the time I'm pretty happy, I think. But I do have some darker ones from darker days. But the thing is, none of these paintings are done in a day. This probably took 3 months to do it, and these 2 are the most recent, and they were, I started those in January, I think. But I really do like size and scale. These, I'd like to even get bigger. It's just something I've always really loved, and really big work at. And I think that goes back. I remember when I was in college, I went to Europe for 5 weeks, and my friend Brian was over there. And we were in Amsterdam, and I think it was Night Watch, and I was just blown away by how big that thing was and how beautifully painted it was. And we went to galleries from Stockholm to Amsterdam to Paris, all the way through, and I go to galleries all over Europe. And so that was there was a painter called Carol Appel I discovered over there, who was a really great abstract painter, really thick, goopy canvases. And so I love surface, and when I go to museums, you'll see me, and I'm always going like this, going up and looking at I stand back and look, and I always look very closely, because I love surface and texture, and that's also something we work at, is trying to get to a point where I use acrylic paint. Acrylic paint can tend to look plasticky if you don't get the right things going with it. So I mix a lot of gels and water and things like that to get it the right kind of surface. The surface is good. And then actually, kind of recently, as I started kind of going into charcoal, you'll see there's a lot of different brush sizes I use, from wide to medium to thinner. And now I started doing this just to give it some energy and life to it. And I think that just comes out of the process. People always ask what it means, how to interpret it. It really is nothing more than a painting, what it is. I use this painting. I don't put imagery. That one over there is called Black Cat, because after I did it, I noticed up in the corner it looks like a black cat, so I just named it that. And I think the naming of paintings is something that comes out of, I kind of see that as almost like poetry. It's never literal, it's abstract thinking, and I keep lists of titles. So I'll get in the mood and I'll just start down titles, and I'll go back and look them. This one is called Mare, which is the sea, and that's something I spent a lot of time in my life. I've been surfing for 4 years, and I spent a lot of time there. I recently added to it. It's now dedicated to a friend of mine, Paul Nugent, because he spent his whole life in the sea. So now it's called The Mare for Paul. Yeah, so they're titled as the mood strikes, and they're much the way the paintings are created. Now, like I said, none of the paintings they look like they're done spontaneously, but they're actually pretty well thought out and worked on for months at a time. Other than that, I don't know a whole lot more stuff. I can take some questions if anybody has any questions about things. I'll be glad to answer any questions.